Hi everyone, Carmen here. So in a different video, I took you through a walkthrough of the building of our home gym, and now today I'll take you on a tour of our home gym, which is located in our basement. So come along and let's get started. So we're gonna start over here in our first corner. So we have our shoe rack along with all of our workout shoes. So we really like organization in this gym and keeping everything really clean and tidy. So we have all our shoes lined up nicely, and between the two of us, you know how it goes. You end up with like quite the assortment of shoes. So we have our Peloton shoes, some Nike Metcons, some Reebok lifters, some Nanos, some Nike running shoes. It's a little bit of a mix of everything. And then behind the shoe rack, this is our little bit of storage space we still have left from our basement. So we had to cram everything into this corner now that we've turned our basement into our home gym. So behind the shoe rack, we have some electrical cable, which we're gonna use to later install an electric heater in our garage. And later on, you'll find out why we'd want an electric heater in our garage. And then behind that, we have our skis and snowboards mounted nicely on the walls, along with our water skis. Because those are a couple of activities we like doing when we want to get out and about. And then we have a bulletin board there with some of the medals from some of the races I've done. And then here we have one of my favorite pieces of cardio equipment, the Concept 2 rower. So we actually got quite lucky. We were on a wait list to get one of these this year, and we were able to get one in September. So it's a piece of cardio equipment I use a ton. So it's incorporated in a lot of CrossFit workouts, which I do a fair amount of CrossFit type workouts down here. So it's perfect having that. And then one of my favorite parts about it, if you didn't know, is the fish game. So this is the perfect way to warm up for any workout. So you press the menu button, you just wait for it to turn on, hit more options, then go to games, and we have the fish game, which is awesome because what we do is we try to catch the little fish and the big fish, which gets us points, without being eaten by these sharks. Because see, what happens is, oh, got lucky and missed that one. Let's see what happens when I get eaten by a shark. It's gonna minus my points, minus 45. So that is a perfect way to warm up for the workouts. And it's also a way to get in a really good cardio base. And then moving on beyond that, we have one of our speakers for the gym. So we really want to have a good music source in our gym. So we managed to find these Harman Kardon speakers on sale for less than half price. We found it for a couple $100 instead of over 500. So it's pretty awesome being able to get those. It links into the Bluetooth on our phone, and we're able to play our playlists. And we have another one on the other side of the gym. And because safety is important to us, we have a fire extinguisher mounted on the wall there. Should we ever have a fire, fingers crossed, hopefully not, but it's better to be safe than sorry and have it and never need it versus needing it and never having it. So that's our corner, and it has your house appliances that you need. So your furnace, your hot water tank. Then over here, we get into our mobility area. So we have your basic blue foam roller, or hard rumble roller, some yoga therapy balls, some black balls of spikes, some golf balls, which we had to hide on the wall because sometimes my 3-year-old nephew comes over and thinks he should throw them everywhere, which is not great for the house, so we put those away. Now we have a mobility sack from Crossover Symmetry. Then heading over this way, we have our Crossover Symmetry bands. So we incorporate these into a lot of our workouts. They're really good for shoulder stabilization and balance, so strengthening the rotator cuff and scaps. So that's something we try to incorporate into our warm-up for every workout, just to keep our shoulders really strong. Then we have a couple of yoga mats, and then some of our fun recovery tools. So we have a Theragun, which was one of my favorite purchases of the year, and then some kind of peanuts, Rogue Supernova balls, the Sidekick mobility tool, and a couple small rollers. And then next we have our dumbbells. So ideally we'd like to eventually get a set of the 5-pound to 25-pound dumbbells, but those are just really hard to get this year. So we've been slowly building and getting what we could. So we have a set of 35s, a set of 45s, and a set of 50s. And these 45s will always hold a special place in my heart. So in a lot of the CrossFit workouts, 35 pounds is the prescribed weight for females, but at the start of everything, when everyone was running out of stock, this 45s were the only set I could get. So I sucked it up, added an extra 10 pounds on a lot of my workouts, which made them really tough, but I got through. So it shows what you can do when you can put your mind to it. Then next up, we have our Rogue wooden rings. So in here, just due to ceiling height, we have to do more strict stuff. So we can do dips on them, we can do ring rows on them, we can lower them to the ground and do push-ups on them, or we can do seated banded muscle up work on them. And then underneath the rings, we have, this was one of my favorite purchases of the year, 80-pound D-ball, which my husband kind of laughed at me when I went to buy this D-ball, but they're super awesome just for conditioning type of work. And then next I have a couple of medicine balls. So when places were running low in stock, we did a bit of research to figure out where we'd be able to find these wall balls or medicine balls, and we found them on Costco.ca. The price was right, so we figured why not. And we thought the name was kind of funny. So if you take a look at them, you'll see they're called TP Wad, which we think is kind of funny. We can't actually do wall balls in our house just because of the ceiling height, but what we can do is we can do med ball cleans, med ball thrusters, things like that. And then if we move outside when it's warmer out in the summer, we can do actual wall balls in the garage with them. And then next we have a couple of kettlebells. So we have a 53-pound kettlebell and a 35-pound kettlebell. So those work great for a lot of conditioning type workouts. And then we also have an ab mat behind. Then up here we have one of the 511 weight vests, which I bought from Rogue a few years ago when it was on sale for a Black Friday deal. Got a really good deal on it, and I use it for some of the body weight workouts. Behind that, we have these slingshots, which are perfect for glute and hip and leg activation before any lower body exercises. So highly recommend those for warm up. And over here, we have some wrist straps, some resistance bands, and our skipping ropes, because skipping is used a ton for cardio and the type of workouts we do. Then over here we have our Rogue box, which I don't know if you noticed it in our building of the home gym video. We had a little time lapse of that, and let me tell you, I completely stressed out my husband when building this one, because I looked at the instructions. I'm like, okay, this is what we do, laid everything out, and I'm like, let's get going. The tricky part was we were using wood glue, so you have to be fast when you work on it. So my husband would have laid things out and practiced assembling a few times before he got started. But I was like, no, I know what we're doing. So we just got started, and I think there is a little difference in processes there, but we made it through and got the box together, and it looks like it should. Next up, we have our board mounted on the wall, so we can use that as a handstand push-up station, or use it to do handstands against the wall. That way we're not working in between the studs or working on top of the plastic over top of the insulation and wrecking that. And then over here, this is where we keep all our weights, so everything's really nice and tidy and organized. So these we got from Tydax, and we got really lucky. We're located in the same city as this company, so we were able to not spend anything on shipping. We just had to drive across the city to their warehouse and pick everything up. So we have some collars, some 5s, 2 sets of 25s, some 2.5s, some 15s, and some 45s. I would really like some 10s, but those have been a little hard to get this year, so we're just waiting for some of those to come in stock so we can order those and round out our weight collection. And then as you can see, we have them mounted on some pipe, which my husband got. We painted it with some spray paint, and it just gave us a really good mounting solution. And one of the things you really need to pay attention to is what we did behind. So we have a piece of plywood behind with a piece of checker plate behind as well. So we mounted everything really good into the studs so it could hold the amount of weight we're putting on each of those pipes. Then next up, we have our barbells. So we have a 45-pound barbell and a 35-pound barbell, and then a couple of pipes that we can use for warm-up and mobility work. And we want everything to be off the floor, nice and clean, so our equipment would stay in really good condition. So what we did was we bought a mounting rack. We got this one off Amazon, I think, and put everything nicely on the wall, got it up off the floor. Our barbells will stay in really good condition. And then once again, we used plywood behind to mount everything. So everything was securely mounted to the wall and we didn't need to worry about anything pulling away. Then we have a little board we can use to write our workouts and scores on to keep us in line. And then we also have an iPad which we use for our timer. This right here is our accountability calendar. So building our home gym was a bit of an investment for us, but we figured if we're using it, it's a worthwhile investment because it really keeps us both healthy, keeps us both active, and is something we find really good for both of us. So as you can see, we put check marks every time we use the gym, and that alone shows that we're using it and there was value in setting it up for ourselves. And then over here is one of my favorite parts of the gym. It's my red bucket that stores my chalk in it. So when I'm doing workouts, I'm a bit of a chalk monster and absolutely love chalk. So for me, it's very exciting having my very own bucket full of it. And that finishes up this corner. And next we'll go over here. So on the wall here, we have a wall mount fold back rack from Tydax. So originally we thought we were going to set up our gym in the garage instead of the basement because we thought with ceiling height, my husband would be too tall to do any overhead work. But once we got our barbells and weights, we realized we could both work down here. So we switched up our plans, and so we still had this rack, which ended up working perfect. So we have a bar up top where we can do pull-ups, and then we can use it to do squats and whatnot. And then behind it, we have a piece of checker plate mounted, have a piece of plywood behind that again to make sure everything stays securely mounted into the wall. And then what we have down here are we have some wooden frames with some flooring, which we put into place just so if we ever drop our barbell, we're not wrecking our barbells and weights or worrying about wrecking our concrete floor should we accidentally drop anything. Then carrying on, we have our second Harman Kardon speaker. So we have a bit of surround sound around the gym. The sound quality off of it's fantastic. So definitely a very worthwhile purchase for us because we both really enjoy working out to music. And then we have our cardio corner over here. So we have an assault air bike, which is, we used a ton in a lot of the CrossFit type workouts, especially at the start of the year when that was the only piece of cardio equipment I had in the house. So that was something I bought a couple of years ago, but it's something that's been a really good addition to the home gym. And then next up, we have the Peloton we got. So over the past couple of years, I'd started taking a few spin classes at a local spin studio, but I was having a hard time fitting in both a CrossFit class in the evening and a spin class in the evening. So I ended up deciding to buy a Peloton, but I'll talk about that in a future video about what really drove my purchasing decision for the Peloton and why it's something I really enjoy and feel like it was a good addition to the home gym. And then last but not least, let's take a look at our flooring. So down here, what we did was we have a wooden frame all the way around to keep all the pieces in place so they don't move. And then we have these Stride Dynaflex floorings. So the flooring was a little bit pricey, probably one of our most expensive items in the gym, but definitely worthwhile. So what it is it's has a low VOC content, which means volatile organic compound, which means it's better for you, better for the environment, better for indoor air quality. So that was something that was really important to us with the flooring, is we wanted something that didn't have any smell, wouldn't affect our indoor air quality, and was something that just really added to the gym. So when we were looking, we were able to order this stuff from a supplier in BC, and you could custom order it. So you could order different colors, and we ended up going with the emerald green. And then as for the flooring itself, it's 1.25 inches thick. So it really works well for when we're doing our CrossFit type workouts. And should we ever drop barbells from overhead, we're not worried about wrecking our concrete floor. We're not worried about wrecking our barbells. And then it's also really good for dampening sound. So that wall there, we have a neighbor attached directly to that side. So we're really conscious of how much noise we're making down here. So by getting the really good flooring, we didn't have to worry about constantly making noise and having our neighbors complain about hearing dropping barbells all the time. So that wraps up our basement portion of the gym. And now I'm going to take you out to the garage where I have a couple extra pieces of equipment. Now what we'll do is we'll head out to our garage to see what we have in there that complements our basement gym. And as we get started, as you can see behind me, we painted our door a very bright green, which makes it fun and an interesting place to go. So now we'll head in to see what we have out there. So in the garage, what we did was we created a place where we could hang the rings in the garage if we want to do full ring muscle ups in the garage. So if you look up there, you'll see we have a piece of plywood mounted with lag bolts into the ceiling, and they're mounted into the studs. And by doing that, we're able to make sure that it's very securely mounted, the rings are gonna stay in place, they won't move at all when we start putting a lot of force on it. So that's what those lag bolts do, is they create a lot of strength along with the piece of the plywood to hold everything up. Because that's not something where you'd want to come crashing down in the middle of the movement. Then the other piece we have out here, so we bought this when we were still thinking about having a garage gym instead of a basement gym, is we bought a Rogue pull-up bar, one of their wall-mounted pull-up bars. So we had to do a little bit of improvisation with the pull-up bar just due to the way our garage is set up. So when you look at where it's mounted, you can see we had to go higher up on the wall to start it. So what we had to do was we actually had to flip it upside down and use it inverted from the way you typically would. So to do that, we had to do a little bit of modification. So if you look at the top of the steel sides, you'll see there's 2 holes at the top. We had to drill an extra hole in those bars to mount it securely to the wall. Once again, we put lag bolts behind, made sure to find the studs to make sure everything was really secure in the wall and wouldn't move when we put a lot of force on the bar. And as you can see, the bar is super solid and will not move. And then the other thing we can do in here too, is the wall's tall enough, is we can use this little space in between the pull-up bar to do our wall balls in the garage, should that be something we ever want to do. And then when it's nice outside, we can open up the door and go out and use it as a running track. So we can see what that looks like if we were to head out. And as you can see, it's a little frosty out there, a little cold in here, which is why I put on the sweater. And that was one of our key reasons to moving the gym into the basement, but that's another key reason why we'll be installing an electric garage heater in the garage to keep us warm. That wraps up our video of our tour of our home gym in our house. If it's something you liked, feel free to like it and leave a comment and let us know if you have any questions.